Hello guys, I am back and welcome to the Comic Gamer Movie Show. Sorry for the long time off. It's been a crazy time for me right now between my work and us redoing things. You probably see maybe a little bit of clutter in the background. We've got a lot of things going on. But I'm back. I'm going to try to pump these videos out. And today I'm here with my action classic of this week. Now, from the beginning of me doing action classic, there's just some movies that were going to always be on it. Now, I have tried to scratch out the different types of action movies that I put on the action classic. I've done Buddy Cop. I've obviously done, the last one I did was on Bruce Lee, so I've obviously done martial arts, and I've done, you know, other things a lot like Desperados, which is sort of kind of Western spaghetti-ish. Today, I'm here to do a classic that really doesn't need any introduction, but I'm going to do it anyways. The Matrix. Yes. 1999's The Matrix. Now, The Matrix was a revolutionary movie in the action genre, and especially. First of all, Keanu Reeves stars in the biggest role of his career until John Wick, which will inevitably be also on the action classic list, but I'll get to that at a later date. But this was the role that launched Keanu Reeves. This role made people think Keanu was going to go, whoa. Now, he didn't. But eventually, he kind of got to a fame level. This movie really was meme-worthy before memes were, like, really a thing. Like, how many people do you know who, I know Kung Fu, or, whoa. Like things like that. Like, the things, stop trying to hit me and hit me, Mr. Anderson. I mean, there are so many quotable lines from this movie. Frankly, this movie is probably one of the most iconic action movies of all time. It's a sci-fi. It's a very futuristic. It's post-apocalyptic. In that way, it shares very many similarities with Equilibrium. And it's a hero's tale as well of this man, Mr. Anderson. I always forget his Neo Anderson? Because you always call him Mr. Anderson. I can't remember if it was Neo Anderson or it was just like whatever. But you know, of this man like played by Keanu Reeves who was just living his life. He's just like, you know, he felt like he was meant for more. He felt like there was something missing. He always felt off, but, you know, he never stood out from the crowd. He was a cog in the machine. He was just there. And, you know, that's classic storytelling on its own right there. And then within the course of a day, his life changes when his world's turned upside down. Not only is his world not even real, but the real world is miserable, and he might be the chosen one. So his life is turned upside down overnight, which if you guys have saw my review of Fright Night, you know I love normal guy whose life are turned upside down overnight movies by something that they couldn't have prevented, but something that was beyond them, by something that it just happens to be them. And that's the path with Neo. Now, honestly, Neo, ironically, I don't know if enough people talk about this, isn't the most interesting part about The Matrix. There are 3 members of the cast that are actually shine brighter than him. One of them, the 2 of them is obvious, which is Trinity and Morpheus, played by Carrie-Anne Moss, and obviously Laurence Fishburne. I always say Laurence Fishburne's name wrong. Yeah, Laurence Fishburne. Yeah, I know Laurence Fishburne. Played by Laurence Fishburne. And Laurence Fishburne shined bright in this movie, not only with his action scenes, but with his dialogue, his calm demeanor, his swagger, his voice, the way he talks. I mean, he made lines like the whole pill scene. It's iconic, and you just see him steadily sitting there. Take the pill. Like, you could just see him in that voice, and the cadence was just amazing. And Carrie-Anne Moss, she was wet dreams for guys. She was so still gorgeous to this day, but she was smoking back then. Badass, kick-ass woman. You didn't really see a lot of that, at least like that, or like hand-to-hand combat. You saw some badass women like Ripley and Ripley, Sarah Connor, but like they were like shooting things. Like, no, you didn't see badass where she just fucking people up and she's literally and she's really, a badass. And she wasn't even the conventional love interest because because it took a while for her to warm up to him and to see him more than that. But yeah, those 2 were actually a little bit more interesting than Neo himself. But the most interesting character, perhaps, in this movie has to be Hugo Weaving's Agent Smith. Agent Smith is one of the most iconic and best villains of all time. He's one of the best, most iconic villains of all time. Played wonderfully by one of the best villain actors of all time, Hugo Weaving, Mr. Anderson. Like his cadence, his demeanor, and he makes and it makes it. He stands out with the other agents because you see the other agents, and the other agents are more robotic, and he's a bit different. Now they kind of set up that he's designed different, He's designed with a couple more bells and whistles than the other ones. Like, he's designed to think kind of differently than the other ones. Like, he was designed that way. But you could tell, like, I'm not going to say they set up the sequel, but you could tell that, like, he actually, like, because, like, there's a great scene where he's, like, torturing, Morpheus, trying to get him to talk. And he unplugs and starts touching him and saying how much he hates the system and he hates this and hates it. It's like he became sentient, like he was aware that he's in this system. And the whole performance from Hugo Weaving was fantastic. The fight scene, I mean, there's so many iconic fight scenes. First of all, let's get to the choreography. The choreography was top-notch wire work. I mean, I don't think American audiences really knew what wire work was until this movie because they used so much of it, from Keanu from flying across the room, from doing certain things, from lifting up. So much wire work, so much over the topness, and like I said, they played up that post-apocalyptic world. It was very interesting, very very obvious. The machines were the humans versus the machines was a very hot topic at that time, especially that was before 2000. It was Y2K. We didn't really know what was gonna happen, so The Matrix came out at a perfect time. There's just so much, but like I said, it pretty much put slow motion on the map. Like, slow motion was a thing, kinda. After The Matrix, it was gone. You start seeing it in Mad Max, you start seeing it in Hard Boiled, and you just start seeing it all over the place. Like there was a time period after The Matrix. I'd say from 2000, 2005, maybe even 2007. Where every freaking big action movie had like some slow motion scenes in it. All of them just had these slow motion scenes. Unnecessarily. Like sometimes it's just like, I don't even get it. But like slow motion was just thought of as an awesome thing because of The Matrix, because of the Neo scene, because of how him stopping the bullets, him bending over and dodging the bullets. Like, we all remember all of these things. And like I said, we all remember the code. Like, whenever to this day I see anything like that on a computer, like the code, I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Is it The Matrix? Am I in The Matrix? Oh man, even though him plugging himself in, I know Kung Fu. Like I said, the movie is iconic on many levels, but the action choreography is top notch, the wire work is top notch. At the time, the CGI was some of the best anyone had ever seen. It still stands up to this day. Like I said, there's nothing much about The Matrix I can't tell you that no one's hasn't told you before. Iconic lines, iconic action sequences, great dialogue, an interesting post-apocalyptic world where humans are used as batteries, which is a freaking crazy idea on its own. And like I said, interesting post-apocalyptic world. Interesting, unexpected hero story, and great, fantastic villain. Two main cast members that are great, with a fun supporting cast, though I think a lot of them were weak. I didn't really care when that one guy died. I do have complaints about The Matrix. Yeah, I didn't really care when some of them started dying. I hadn't really cared when they started dying because I hadn't really met them long enough to care when they started dying. I was a bit worried maybe when Trinity was gonna die, but I was like, and I thought Morpheus was gonna die because usually in stories like these they kill off the mentor figure character. And like I said, and it was a bit predictable. You did know that it was still exciting and still, it still pumps you up. It pumped me up even when I rewatched it with Seth not that long ago. Like, it pumped me up. But you knew he wasn't gonna die. You knew he wasn't gonna die. You knew he was gonna overcome this. Even when he got shot down, I never for a second, when I first saw that movie, thought that he was dead. I never for a second thought that he was dead, which, like I said, there's just a minor complaint about the movie, just minor complaint. Some of the CGI, I said at the time, was fantastic. Some of the CGI does not stand up anymore. It looks a little video game-ish at times with some of the CGI. Some of the wire work is still fantastic. The wire work is still great, and while and I can't even complain about some of the technology stuff just because it's the way it was designed. I will say that this was definitely a movie that did not need a sequel. It should have ended right here, which I'm not going to levy as a complaint against the movie. It's just an analysis that I wanted to throw out there since I'm making the video. But, oh man, The Matrix is, I'm going to go out on a limb. It's probably the best action movie I've reviewed so far on my action movie classic. So far, it's the best action movie on the action movie classic list. So I give The Matrix as an action movie a 10 and as a movie a 9.5. It's classic storytelling at its finest, good supporting cast, great supporting villain, CGI not as good as it used to be, but not so bad that it's distracting. The wire work stuff is great. The action is over the top, little more over the top than you will, especially like later on when you see John Wick, like, and then you see this action that's way over the top. And, you know, there is some other ethics to ask questions, but just like, you know what, you just roll with the punches. You don't really think Neo's gonna die throughout the course of this movie. You don't for a second. Not even like, even John Wick, when I saw the first John Wick, I thought John Wick was gonna die. Because, you know, a lot of revenge movies end that way, with the character getting his revenge and then dying. So I thought John Wick was gonna die. I never thought Neo was gonna die while I was watching this movie. I never thought Neo was gonna die for a second. But everyone else fair game. I thought Morpheus was gonna die, so they got me there. But I never thought Neo was gonna die. But like I said, this movie is just an action classic of all proportions. It gets a 10 out of 10. Great movie. They're making a fourth one. I don't know how. I don't know why. It's why I thought about making the movie, because I just realized they're making a fourth one. I was just like, what? He's dead. His lifeless body just sat there. I digress. Thank you guys for watching the Comic Game Movie Show. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.